The townhouse gleams like a polished shell, perched on the city's edge, where suburban quiet frays into urban hum. Glass walls stretch floor to ceiling, catching the amber flicker of streetlights outside, their glow pooling on the hardwood in jagged patches. I pace the open-plan kitchen, bare feet silent against the cool floor, the space too big, too still. My husband's been gone again. Another business trip, weeks bleeding into months. His suitcase a ghost that rolls out the door before I can pin him down. The house doesn't feel like ours anymore. It's a showroom, all sleek lines and staged furniture, a place where life's supposed to happen but doesn't. I'm alone here, a fixture gathering dust. I stop by the counter, fingers curling around a wine glass, its chill biting into my palm. The Viognier inside is sharp, floral, a faint sting on my tongue as I sip. I catch my reflection in the mirror above the sink, and it's a jolt. My eyes narrow, searching. The silk nightie I'm wearing clings to me, deep blue, sliding over the curve of my hips, the hem grazing my thighs. My skin's still taut, golden from summer, my hair a dark spill over one shoulder. I've fought for this. Hours at the gym, creams that promise youth, a body I've kept sharp despite the years ticking past. 38 now, and I wonder if it's slipping away. These best years I swore I'd hold on to. No one's here to see it, to trace the lines I've honed, to tell me I'm still worth looking at. My husband's calls are perfunctory, his voice a thin wire stretched across cities, and I feel it. The slow fade of being wanted. The air's thick tonight, heavy with late summer, pressing against my chest like a hand. I set the glass down, condensation slick under my fingers, and lean closer to the mirror. My breath fogs the glass, a fleeting cloud, and I wipe it away, restless. The kitchen island looms behind me, marble veined with gray, a cold slab I've never cooked on. Not really. We don't live here. We exist. I turn, hips brushing the counter's edge, and that's when I notice the window. It's open, a wide rectangle framing the backyard, letting in the drone of crickets and the faint pulse of traffic from the city beyond. The breeze slips through, warm and insistent, tugging at the silk against my skin, lifting the hem just enough to graze my legs higher. I step closer, drawn to the dark beyond the glass. The yard's a shadowed stretch, bordered by cedar fences that block out the neighbors, except for him. There, past the fence line, a figure moves. The neighbor. He's out late, a lean shape against the dim wash of his porch light, shifting through his own patch of grass. I can't see his face, just the outline. Broad shoulders, a quiet way of moving that feels deliberate, like he knows the ground under him. My pulse kicks up, a dull thud in my ears, and I freeze, one hand flat against the window frame. He's not looking my way, not yet, but there's something in how he cuts through the stillness, a blade slicing the thick air. It stirs me, a thread pulling tight in my gut, something I thought I'd buried under the weight of these empty nights. I linger there, wine glass forgotten, the mirror at my back still holding the shape of me, silk and skin, a woman staring down time. My fingers tighten on the frame, nails pressing into wood, and I feel the night seep in, humid and alive. He's just a silhouette, a stranger I've barely nodded to over the fence. But tonight he's more. A presence. A question. My reflection blurs in the glass as I watch him, the blue silk catching the light, my body outlined sharp against the dark. I wonder if he'd see it too, if he turned, if he'd pause, if his eyes would hold. The thought coils low, dangerous, and I don't push it away. Not tonight. The city hums louder now, a bass note under the crickets, and I step back, the floor cold again under my feet. My chest feels tight, like the air is pressing harder, and I pick up the glass, draining it in one tilt. The wine burns going down, a bright edge that steadies me. He's still out there, moving slow, and I don't close the window. I don't want to. It's open, letting the night bleed in, letting that quiet figure linger in the corner of my eye. I set the glass down, the clink sharp in the silence, and turn back to the mirror. My lips part, breath uneven, And I see it. Something waking up. Something I thought I'd lost. The house is empty, but for the first time in months, I don't feel alone. The backyard splits our worlds. A narrow strip of grass hemmed in by cedar fences, their wood weathered gray under the weight of summer. Dusk settles slow, streetlights beyond the fence waking up, casting a soft orange glow that bleeds through the slats. I've seen him out there before. The neighbor, early 40s, lean as a wire, hands rough from some kind of work I can't place. Tonight, I feel it again, that pull, like a current tugging me toward the glass. The kitchen's too quiet, the townhouse too hollow, and my feet carry me to the patio door before I can talk myself out of it. My nightie sways against me. Silk, deep blue, the hem brushing my thighs, light as a whisper. I don't bother with shoes. The concrete's still warm from the day, gritty under my soles. He's there, same as last night, a shadow moving against the fading light. The hose loops in his grip, water arcing out in lazy spurts, darkening the dirt near his side of the fence. I step out, the air thick, clinging to my skin like damp cloth, and the silk shifts, cool where it touches me. I don't know why I'm here, maybe to feel seen, maybe to test the edge of something I can't name. My hair falls loose, catching the breeze, and I tuck it back, fingers grazing my neck. That's when he turns. Not fully, just enough. His head tilting my way, eyes catching mine across the yard. They linger, steady, and my chest tightens, a knot I can't loosen. He's close enough now, 20 feet maybe, that I see the lines of him, jaw sharp, hands flexing on the hose, a quiet strength in how he stands. I should go in. I don't. I take another step, the silk sliding higher, and he shifts, the hose jerking in his hands. Water sprays out, wild for a second, and it hits me, cold, sudden, a shock that steals my breath. It soaks through the nightie, plastering it to my skin, the fabric turning dark and heavy. My chest rises fast, ribs pressing against the wet silk as it molds to me, outlining every curve. The dip of my waist, the swell of my hips, the way my legs tense as I stand there, dripping. Water beads on my arms, trails down my thighs, pooling at my feet on the concrete. I gasp, a sound swallowed by the night, and look up. His eyes widen, a flash of surprise, then darken, narrowing as they trace me. His jaw locks, a muscle jumping under the skin, and he mutters something. Sorry, maybe. His voice low, rough around the edges. I don't move. I can't. My pulse hammers, loud in my ears, a rhythm that drowns out the crickets and the distant hum of the city. The wet silk clings like a second skin, cold where it presses, warm where my blood rushes beneath. He's still holding the hose, water dribbling out now, forgotten, and I feel it. His stare, heavy, peeling back the layers I've kept tucked away. Every line he can't unsee burns into me, the way the fabric sticks to my stomach, the faint outline of my ribs as I breathe, the damp strands of hair framing my face. I'm exposed, raw, and it lights something in me, a spark I haven't felt in years. My fingers curl at my sides, nails biting into my palms, and I wonder if he sees it too. The woman I've been hiding, the one I've fought to keep. He steps closer, just a half step, the fence still between us, and drops the hose. It thuds soft on the grass, water seeping into the earth. Didn't mean to, he says, louder this time, but his tone's off. Less apology, more weight. I nod, lips parting, but nothing comes out. The air's electric now, the space between us shrinking even with the wood in the way. My skin prickles, not from the cold, but from how he looks at me, like he's seeing past the nightie, past the water, into the hollow I've been carrying. I shift, the silk tugging against me, and his gaze follows, deliberate, unhurried. My throat tightens, a flush creeping up my neck, and I feel alive, pinned there under his eyes, the dusk folding around us like a curtain. I could laugh it off, retreat, let the moment break. I don't. The open window behind me spills kitchen light into the yard, framing me against it, And I know he sees that too. The glow catching the wet silk, turning me into something sharp, something real. My chest lifts again, slower now, and I hold his stare, daring him to look away. He doesn't. The hose lies still, the water's gone quiet, but my pulse won't settle. It's hammering, wild, and I realize I want him to keep looking. I want him to see what no one else has bothered to. The night presses in, humid and close, and I step back, concrete rough under my feet, leaving wet prints behind. The window's still open, the yard still shared, and he's still there, watching, waiting, a shadow I can't shake. The living room feels like a gallery after dark. Stark, all clean lines and sharp angles, the glass walls letting in the city's faint pulse. Horns bleat in the distance, a siren wails somewhere down the grid, their sounds seeping through the plaster like a heartbeat I can't shake. I've barely slept, the nightie still damp in the hamper, its silk crumpled with the memory of water and his eyes. Midday sun cuts through now, harsh on the hardwood, and I'm pacing again, barefoot, the floor smooth under my soles. The house is too quiet, too perfect, and I'm restless, my skin humming with something I can't name. Then the knock comes. 3 raps, firm, pulling me to the door like a thread tugged tight. I open it, and there he is, the neighbor, hands empty, no toolbox to hide behind. His face is flushed, a ruddy heat climbing his neck, and his eyes dart to mine before dropping, then back up. He's leaner up close, early 40s etched into the lines around his mouth. His hair dark and mussed, like he's run his hands through it too many times. About yesterday, he starts, voice rough, stumbling over the words. The hose, I didn't mean it. An apology, clumsy but real, and I tilt my head, letting the silence stretch. My lips curve, not quite a smile, and I lean against the frame, arms loose at my sides. I'll see what I can do about it, I say, my tone light but edged. But you've been punished enough. You owe me amends. It's a tease, a dare, and his brows lift, just a flicker, like he's caught off guard. He steps closer, one foot crossing the threshold, and the air shifts, denser, warmer, the city noise fading behind the thud in my ears. Let me make it up to you, he says, low, almost daring. Cook you dinner, tomorrow. His voice curls around the words, a challenge wrapped in quiet, and my chest tightens, a knot I can't untie. I don't answer right away, letting his offer hang there, heavy between us. He's near enough now that I smell him, cedar, faint sweat, the earth of his yard still on him. My wrist itches where the water hit, and then his fingers brush it, light, fleeting, a graze as he shifts his weight. A jolt races through me, electric, searing up my arm, and my breath catches, sharp in my throat. His eyes lock on mine, searching, and I wonder if he feels it too, that current snapping between us. I step back, just an inch, the hardwood cool again under my feet, but I don't break his gaze. Tomorrow, I say finally, my voice steady, despite the pulse hammering my ribs. He nods, a quick jerk of his head, and turns, hands shoving into his pockets, as he crosses the yard back to his side. The door clicks shut behind me, and I'm alone again, the room swallowing the sound. My wrist burns where he touched it, a faint heat lingering, and I press my fingers there, tracing the spot. The city hums beyond the walls, relentless, but it's his voice I hear, low, daring, looping in my head. I wander to the couch, sinking into it, the fabric rough against my legs, and stare at the open window. The backyard's empty now, his silhouette gone, but the fence line feels thinner, the distance less. Evening comes slow, the light bleeding out, and I find myself in the bathroom, wine glass in hand. The mirror's fogged, steam curling up from the sink where I've let the tap run hot, and I set the glass on the counter, the clink sharp in the quiet. My reflection blurs, a shadow of me, hair loose, eyes dark, the tank top I've thrown on clinging to my shoulders. I lean closer, breath clouding the glass, and wipe it clear. My skin's flushed, Not from the heat, but from him, his stumble, his ask, that touch. My thoughts tangle around him, a knot I can't pick apart. He's not just the shadow now, not just the hose and the water. He's a man who stood in my doorway, hands empty, voice daring me to step closer to the edge. I sip the wine, the Viognier sharp on my tongue, and feel my pulse settle into something steady, something alive. My fingers drift to my wrist again, pressing where his skin met mine, and I imagine tomorrow, his hands moving over a stove, his eyes finding me across a table. The mirror catches me like that, lips parted, chest rising slow, and I don't look away. The city drones on outside, a low growl through the walls. But here, in this fogged up room, it's him I see. The window's still open downstairs, letting in the night, and I know I won't close it. Not yet. He's out there, across that thin line of grass, and I'm here, waiting, the air between us charged with what's coming. Morning breaks sharp, sunlight slicing through the glass walls, painting the townhouse in streaks of gold and shadow. I'm up early, restless, the city's hum seeping in, a low growl of engines, the faint clatter of construction somewhere down the grid. It drives me, that sound, like a pulse I can't outrun. The house feels too still, too clean, and I start moving, wiping down the kitchen counter, its marble cool under my palms, sweeping the hardwood until it gleams. My hands tremble, just a little, and I grip the cloth tighter, chasing the unease out through motion. He's coming tonight. The neighbor. His words from yesterday looping in my head. Dinner, tomorrow, that low, daring edge to his voice. It's solid, close, a tether pulling me through the hours. I finish downstairs, dust clinging to my fingers, and climb to the bedroom, the stairs creaking under my bare feet. The closet doors slide open, smooth on their tracks, and I dig through the hangers, silks, cottons, things I've worn for no one in months. My hands stall on something black, sheer, buried at the back. I pull it out, the fabric spilling over my arms, light catching its weave. It's a dress. Neckline plunging deep, waist cinched to hug me tight, the hem short enough to graze mid-thigh. I've kept my body sharp for this. Hours of sweat, meals skipped, a frame I've honed against time. The mirror on the wall watches as I hold it up, the black stark against my skin, promising to show every line I've fought for. My chest tightens, a knot of want and nerves, and I know this is it, the most revealing thing I own, a dare I'll wear tonight. The day drags, sticky with heat, and I shower late, letting the water scald my shoulders, steam clouding the glass. My hair dries loose, dark waves framing my face, and I step into the dress, the fabric cool as it slides over me. It clings, tight at my waist, dipping low to bear the curve of my collarbone, the swell of my chest. I turn, bare feet silent on the rug, and catch myself in the mirror again. The black shifts with me, sheer where it stretches, my legs long and taut beneath. My fingers trace the neckline, skin warm under my touch, and I feel it. The conflict deepening, his invitation a weight in my mind. Make it up to you, he'd said, and I wonder what he meant, what he saw in me dripping wet, what he'll see now. I head downstairs, the dress swaying with each step, and stop in the kitchen. The counter's pristine, the wine glass from last night washed and dry, but the air's alive, humming with the city beyond the walls. The window's open again. I can't keep it shut, and a breeze slips through, brushing my bare shoulders, lifting the hem just enough to graze my thighs. I adjust the fabric, tugging it lower, then higher, my palms smoothing it against my hips. My pulse kicks up, steady and loud, and I imagine him walking in, his eyes finding me like this, the black cutting sharp against my skin, every curve laid bare. The thought coils tight, low in my gut, a promise I can taste. Will he pause? Will he look the way he did yesterday, dark and deliberate, peeling me open? The light's fading now, dusk creeping in, streetlights flickering on beyond the glass. I lean against the counter, the marble cold through the dress, and feel the breeze again, warm, insistent, curling around my arms. My fingers flex, nails tapping the surface, and I picture him crossing the yard, his hands rough from whatever he does, his voice low as he steps inside. The city drones on, a bass note under the quiet, and I shift, the fabric pulling tight across my chest. My breath's uneven, lips parting as I glance at the window, the backyard shadowed beyond it. He's out there, somewhere, and I'm here, wrapped in black, waiting for the knock. It's not just dinner, it's amends. It's a line we're towing, and I want to cross it, even if I don't say it out loud. I step closer to the glass, the open window framing me, and the air feels charged, heavy with what's coming. My skin prickles, not from the breeze, but from the weight of his words, solid and close, looping endless in my mind. I adjust the dress one more time, fingers lingering at my waist, and let the thought settle. He'll see me like this, all of me, the body I've kept sharp, the woman I've been hiding. The hook's there, tight and coiled, pulling me toward tonight. I don't move away from the window. I don't want to. The city hums, the breeze brushes my shoulders like a promise, and I stand there, ready, the black sheer and alive against my skin, waiting for him to break the silence. My kitchen's alive tonight, warm and cluttered, a mess of pans stacked in the sink, their metal edges glinting under the overhead light. The air's thick with garlic, sharp and earthy, mingling with a trace of cedar, maybe from him, maybe from the yard drifting in. City traffic rumbles outside, a faint growl through the glass, steady under the clatter of my own hands. I've been at it for hours, chopping, stirring, the black dress swaying as I move, its sheer fabric pulling tight across my waist, the neckline dipping low. The stove hums, heat curling up in waves, and I feel it on my skin. A flush that's not just from cooking. He's coming. The neighbor. His knock's due any minute, and my pulse beats hard, a rhythm I can't quiet. The clock ticks past 7, and there it is. 3 raps at the door, firm, cutting through the noise. I wipe my hands on a towel, the cotton rough against my palms, and cross the hardwood, bare feet silent. The dress shifts, cool where it brushes my thighs, and I open the door. He's there, lean, early 40s, his shirt sleeves rolled up, hands rough at his sides. His eyes find me, quick, then slow, tracing the black fabric, the way it clings. "Smells good," he says, voice low, stepping inside, and I nod, lips curving just enough. The air shifts with him, denser, and I lead him to the kitchen, the city's hum fading behind us. We talk at first, easy, light, leaning against the counter as I plate the food. Pasta, slick with oil, flecked with herbs, steam rising between us. He asks about the house, the city, his tone casual but warm, and I answer, my voice steady, despite the heat climbing my neck. The wine's out, Viognier again, sharp on my tongue, and I pour him a glass, my fingers steady on the bottle. He takes it, his knuckles brushing mine, and the talk turns, less easy, more charged. His gaze lingers now, not just on the dress, but on me, the way my hair falls loose, the bare skin at my collarbone. I feel it, heavy, peeling back the layers I've worn all day, and my chest tightens, a knot I can't untangle. We eat standing up, plates balanced on the counter, the clink of forks sharp in the quiet. The garlic bites, the cedar lingers, and he's closer now, close enough that I catch his breath, warm, faintly spiced from the wine. The city rumbles on, a low drone through the open window, but it's his voice I hear, low and deliberate, asking about the yard, the hose, a tease in his tone. I laugh, soft, and set my plate down, the dress tugging as I turn to face him. He's still, watching, and the air crackles, thick with something unspoken. Then he moves, slow, deliberate, leaning in, his hand lifting to rest on the counter beside me. His lips brush mine, soft but firm, a pressure that steals my breath. Heat surges, sudden, flooding my chest, and I kiss back. Instinct, not thought. My mouth moving against his, tasting wine and salt. His hand shifts, fingers grazing my arm, and my skin burns under the sheer fabric, alive where he touches. It's brief, electric, a current snapping through me, and then I pull away, my fingers trembling as they press his chest, firm under his shirt. He stops, breath uneven, eyes dark and locked on mine, searching. I step back, the hardwood cold under my feet, and the taste of him lingers, sharp, warm, a mark I can't erase. My skin's flushed, the dress clinging tighter now, damp with heat, and I feel the window behind me, open, carrying the night's hum into the room. I don't speak. Neither does he. My hand falls, brushing the counter, and I turn, facing the sink. The pans a jumbled heap. My pulse hammers, loud in my ears, and I fight the urge to close the gap again, to step back, to let his hands find me, to feel that heat swallow me whole. The breeze slips through, brushing my shoulders, lifting the hem of the dress, and I grip the counter, nails tapping the marble. He's still there, I know it. His presence a weight behind me, solid and close. The city drones on. Horns faint beyond the glass, but it's his breath I hear, steady now, waiting. I glance at the window, the backyard dark beyond it, and wonder what he sees. Me in black, trembling, the woman who kissed him back. The silence stretches, taut, and I turn my head, just enough. His eyes are on me, unblinking, and my throat tightens, a flush creeping higher. I could say something, laugh, break it, but I don't. The hook's there, unfurling slow, pulling me toward him even as I stand still. The taste of him clings, my skin alive under the sheer fabric, and I know I want more, more than this, more than the edge we've brushed. The window's open, the night spilling in, and I let it, letting him stay in the corner of my eye, a shadow I can't shake, a line I've crossed but haven't leapt over. Not yet. The townhouse feels brittle now, its clean edges cutting sharper in the morning light, like it's mocking the mess I've made inside me. Glass walls gleam, cold and unyielding, framing the city skyline, a glitter of steel and concrete beyond the yard, distant but pressing in. I'm still in the kitchen, the pans from last night scrubbed and stacked, the air faintly sour with garlic and wine. My skin's tight, flushed from the memory of him, the neighbor, his lips on mine, my fingers on his chest, the way I pulled back when I could have stayed. The black dress hangs upstairs, crumpled on the bed, its sheer fabric a silent witness to what I didn't finish. Then the front door rattles, a key scraping the lock, and my husband's here, rolling his suitcase in like nothing's changed. He's jet-lagged, eyes shadowed, his suit wrinkled from the plane. The wheels thud on the hardwood, a dull rhythm as he drags it past me, his voice droning. Flights delayed, meetings endless, a litany I've heard too many times. Rough trip, he says, flat, not looking up, and I nod, smoothing my hair with unsteady hands. It's loose, still tangled from sleep, and I tug it straight, fingers catching in the strands. The kitchen counter's between us, marble cold under my palms, and I lean there, watching him shuffle toward the stairs. He's oblivious, doesn't see the flush on my neck, the way my breath hitches, the weight I'm carrying from last night. I should feel relief he's back, but all I feel is the clock. Time I didn't have. Time I needed to pull the neighbor closer, to feel him against me fully, not just that fleeting taste. The conflict tightens, a band around my chest, squeezing until my ribs ache. I turn to the window, open, always open, letting in the city's hum, horns and engines, a faint roar beyond the glass. He's out there, the neighbor, trimming his hedge with slow, deliberate cuts. The shears flash, steel catching the sun, and I freeze, hands still in my hair. He's lean against the green, his shirt clinging to his shoulders, damp with sweat. And then his eyes flick up, quick, sharp, finding mine through the pain. My pulse lurches, a thud I feel in my throat, and my chest grows heavy, sinking with what I didn't do. Last night replays. His lips, firm and warm, my retreat. The space I left between us. I wanted more, needed it. And now my husband's here, a wall I can't climb, his suitcase thudding up the stairs behind me. He's talking again, something about schedules, his voice a low buzz I barely hear. I nod, automatic, my gaze locked on the yard. The neighbor pauses, shears still, and wipes his brow with the back of his hand, rough skin glinting in the light. His eyes hold mine a beat longer, dark, unreadable, and I feel it. A thread pulling tight, stretching across the grass, through the glass. My fingers drop from my hair, brushing my neck where the flush lingers, and I wonder if he knows, if he feels the same ache, the same unfinished pull. The city skyline glitters cold beyond him, towers stabbing the sky, and I hate it, hate the distance it mirrors, the time I lost. I could have stayed last night, let his hands find me, let the heat swallow us both. Instead, I'm here, pinned by my husband's droning, his presence a weight I can't shift. He's upstairs now, the suitcase unzipping, and I step closer to the window, the hardwood cool under my feet. The breeze slips in, warm and thick, tugging at my shirt. Cotton today, loose. Nothing like the black dress. My skin prickles, alive with what's out there, and I press a hand to the glass, the surface smooth and unforgiving. The neighbor turns, clipping again, but his head tilts my way, just enough. My chest heaves, heavy with regret, and I imagine crossing the yard, barefoot, reckless, finishing what we started. The hook twists deep, a ache I can't shake, and I hear my husband's footsteps coming back down, slow, steady. Need coffee? He mutters, brushing past me to the machine, and I flinch, the sound jarring me back. I don't move from the window. The neighbor's still there, shears moving rhythmically, and I watch, lips parted, breath uneven. My husband's here, filling the space with his tired routine, but it's the man outside I feel, solid, close, a shadow I can't let go. The city hums louder, a bass note under the hedges rustle, and my fingers curl against the glass, nails tapping soft. I smooth my hair again, compulsive, and feel the weight settle. Time slipping, chances missed. His eyes on me through the glass, a tether I can't break. The house is brittle, the skyline cold, and I'm caught between them, heavy with what I didn't finish, waiting for a crack to let me through. Night wraps the townhouse tight, its glass walls dim under a sky bruised with dusk, the city skyline a faint shimmer of steel beyond. I'm in our bedroom, stretched across sheets so crisp they crackle under me, the cotton cool against my bare legs. The lights muted, a soft gray filtering through half-closed blinds, casting slanted shadows over the bed. My husband's beside me, his suitcase still gaping from this morning, clothes spilling out in a tired heap. He's quiet, jet-lagged, his phone glowing against his chest as he scrolls, oblivious to the storm twisting inside me. The neighbor's kiss burns. Soft lips, firm pressure, the heat I walked away from, and it's a live wire sparking under my skin, louder now that he's here, filling the space I need empty. Then his phone buzzes, a harsh jolt against the silence, and I turn my head, watching his jaw tighten. Work, he grumbles, sitting up. Urgent trip. Out tomorrow, back the next night. Luck turns, a fissure cracking open, and my pulse leaps, a quick, hard thud in my chest. He's on his feet, packing again. Shirts folded with mechanical precision, shoes shoved into corners, the suitcase zipper rasping shut. I lie still, sheets bunched at my waist, plodding while he moves, his shadow flickering across the walls. The city hums beyond the glass, horns bleeding, engines growling low. And I feel it, the chance blooming, the hours he's handing me. He doesn't see my fingers gripping the fabric, my breath catching as I think of the neighbor. His lean frame, his rough hands, the way his eyes cut through me this morning. I'll text you from the airport, he says, voice a dull thread, and I nod, lips sealed, hiding the surge building inside. The conflict fractures, a clean break. I'm not waiting anymore, not pulling back. He hauls the suitcase out, its wheels thudding down the stairs, and the door clicks shut, leaving me alone, the room thick with what's next. I roll over, the sheets tangling, and snatch my phone from the nightstand, its weight cold in my palm. My fingers fly, decisive. Come over tomorrow. 7. I send it, the words streaking across the yard to him, and my pulse races, wild under the covers, a rhythm I can't slow. His number, grabbed from some old flyer about yard work, stares back, a tether I've held onto since that kiss. I toss the phone down, chest rising fast, and swing my legs out, the hardwood icy against my soles. The air's heavy, pressing my skin, and I cross to the window, shoving it wider. The city's glow spills in, orange streetlights, white towers, fracturing over me, and I stare into the dark, the backyard a void, his house a faint outline past the fence. My body's taut, every nerve pulled tight, anticipation coiling deep in my core. I lean into the frame, wood smooth under my palms, and the breeze hits, warm, restless, lifting my hair, brushing my neck where the flush still lingers. The memory of his kiss floods back. Wine on his tongue, his fingers grazing my arm, the heat I let slip. And it's a current I can't switch off, pulsing through me, steady and fierce. My nails tap the sill, a soft staccato in the quiet. And I imagine him now, phone in hand, jaw flexing as he reads, maybe that dark glint in his eyes I saw through the glass. The city hums louder, a bass note under the night, and I press my temple to the pane, its chill grounding me. He'll be here tomorrow, in this house, close enough to touch, and I'm ready, ready to finish it, to let the heat take us where it wants. No more edges, no more halfway. The blinds clatter, swaying in the breeze, and I step back, the room dim and close around me. My tank top sticks, damp with the warmth I'm carrying, and I feel my pulse everywhere, wrists, throat, low in my gut. I slide back into bed, the sheets twisting as I settle, and stare up, shadows pooling on the ceiling. He'll come. I know he will. That wiry frame, those hands. They'll cross the grass, step through my door, and I'll meet him. No hesitation this time. The hook sinks in, deep and unyielding, as I turn to the window again, the city's glow washing over me. My body hums, taut with what's coming, and I don't push it down. The kiss replays, soft, firm, a start, and I let it burn, let it drag me toward tomorrow. The house is still, the facade cracked wide, and I'm stepping through, the open window, a gate I won't shut. The living room pulses with heat, its clean lines blurred in the dim glow of a single lamp. The city's horns, a distant wail beyond the glass walls. He's here, the neighbor. His knock came at 7 sharp, and now his hands are on me, rough palms sliding over my skin, pulling me into him. I'd opened the door in a loose sweater, jeans slung low, but they're gone now, discarded in a heap by the couch. We move together, urgent, raw, my back pressed into the cushions, the fabric coarse against my bare shoulders. Every touch is a release, a flood breaking loose, his breath hot against my neck, my fingers digging into his arms. The air's thick, heavy with cedar and sweat, and I feel it, every nerve alight, every want I've carried spilling out in the press of his body against mine. Time bends, minutes folding into each other, and the city fades, its hum swallowed by the sound of us, breath catching, fabric rustling, the couch creaking under our weight. His hands roam, firm and sure, tracing the lines I've kept sharp, and I arch into him, the tension from days, weeks, months unwinding in a rush. My skin burns where he touches, a heat that builds and crests, and we finish together, breathless, tangled, my chest heaving against his. The lamp casts long shadows, flickering over us, and I lie there, damp hair sticking to my neck, his weight still on me, solid and real. The open window lets in the night, cool air brushing my legs, carrying the faint wail of horns, and I feel the release settle, a quiet hum under my ribs, until headlights sweep the driveway, slicing through the dark. The conflict explodes, a jolt ripping through me, and I freeze, my hands still on his shoulders. The beams cut across the glass, stark and white, and I know it's my husband, back too soon. The neighbor shifts, lifting off me, his breath ragged as he turns, eyes narrowing at the light. I sit up, fast, the couch rough under my thighs, and scramble for my sweater, the wool scratchy as I yank it over my head. My jeans stay crumpled, out of reach, and my pulse hammers, a wild thud in my ears. The suitcase rolls outside, a familiar thud on gravel, and I stumble to my feet, the hardwood cold, my skin still warm from him, cedar clinging to me, a mark I can't scrub off. The windows wide open, framing his silhouette. My husband, dragging the case toward the door, his shape blurred but unmistakable. My mind reels, a collision of desire and consequence crashing hard. The neighbor's beside me, pulling his shirt on, his movements quick but calm, like he's weighing the seconds. He's early, I whisper, voice thin, and he nods, jaw tight, eyes flicking to the door. The knob rattles, keys jangling, and my chest seizes, air trapped in my throat. I smooth my hair, trembling fingers snagging in the strands, and step back, the lamp's glow catching me, sweater askew, legs bare, the flush still high on my cheeks. The city's wail grows louder, horns cutting through the night, and I feel the hook land, deep and brutal, caught between the man beside me and the one coming through the door, my skin a map of what I've done. He's in now. The husband, his suitcase thudding over the threshold, his voice calling out, "Flight got canceled." It's flat, tired, and he doesn't see us yet, not fully, his head down as he kicks off his shoes. The neighbor moves silent toward the kitchen, and I follow, my bare feet silent on the wood, panic clawing up my chest. The living room's a wreck, jeans on the floor, cushions skewed, and I pray he doesn't look, doesn't turn. "You hear?" He calls again, louder, and I force a "yeah," my voice cracking, too high. The neighbor's at the back door now, hand on the knob, and he glances back, eyes dark, steady, a question I can't answer. My skin still warm, his touch a ghost on me, and I nod quick, urging him out. The city hums, relentless, and the window frames it all. My husband stepping closer, the neighbor slipping into the yard, me stranded between. The suitcase rolls again, slow, and he's in the hall now, his shadow stretching toward me. I tug the sweater down, wool itching my thighs, and feel the air shift, cool from the window, hot from my lungs. My mind's a tangle, desire still pulsing, consequence crashing in, and I don't know what he'll see, what he'll ask. The neighbor's gone, the back door clicking shut, but his scent lingers, cedar and sweat, and my chest heaves, heavy with the wreckage. The hook's there, unyielding. I'm frozen, the open window spilling night over me, my skin a confession, the collision of what I wanted and what's here tearing me open.